Hey everyone, Emily Jashinsky, culture editor at The Federalist, here with our fearless senior editor, Christopher Bedford. We are going to cover something that just happened. You have Republican Senator from Maine, Susan Collins, saying in order for Americans to have confidence in the CDC guidance, it has to be up to date and not dictated by politics. We need people to trust the CDC so that they follow the guidance that makes sense. Otherwise, it is even harder to encourage hesitant people to get the vaccine. In addition, if people find they cannot do anything differently after a vaccine, they will not see the benefit in getting vaccinated. Here's more from Collins. As I said to the CDC director at a public hearing earlier this week, the CDC's guidance on masks was not consistent with the overwhelming scientific evidence. Today's announcement on masks, while overdue, is certainly a step in the right direction. That while overdue part is probably the key here, because I think so much damage has already been done to public trust and to people's lives by the CDC.
It's just too late.
It's too late.
It's way too late, and it's so deserved, and it's so sad. I was thinking, as this gas shortage hit in the last few days, that there's no shot that the government could come out and say, "Listen, guys, if you run and hoard this gasoline, then we're going to have a problem with people who need to get to work," because no one's listening to them anymore. I mean, if a disease came into the country again and the government said we need to lock down, this is really dangerous, we need to start wearing masks, how many of you would say, no, I'm not playing that game again. I'm not playing that game again.
Right.
And even if until you start to actually see serious effects, it better be more serious than COVID. They sacrificed so much trust. They've given it all away for this politics and partisanship and like blockheaded stupidity. And I think that they're generally going to keep this going for as long as they can, because they don't need to get power back. They have it.
Yeah.
So just don't surrender it. Don't surrender an ounce of it.
I think you just made a really important point about future pandemics, and that when you...
I'm definitely not listening. I might pay the consequences for that.
Well, so yes, you might.
And others
might. Yes. And that's the thing, is like, they have burned so much trust, because it's like, why would you trust them at this point when they've been doing things that fly in the face of science and insisting that it is the science, and then getting caught like Anthony Fauci just being like, well, I just didn't think the public was smart enough right now to really get it. So I'm going to sort of treat them like children, and I'm going to be a real jerk about it entire time.
We can hear you, Fauci.
And on top of that, let's combine that with the fact that the left now wants to treat everything as a major emergency crisis, because they've learned what they can seize power during a pandemic and during an emergency. And the American people, they've been able to sort of run over it. Yeah.
Okay. We don't go to church anymore, so we're interested in this new golden calf called scientism.
Right. And so that's a really dangerous...
sacrifice our neighbors to that.
It's a dangerous combination, because it means that they're going to be trying to have more emergency situations while public trust continues to deteriorate.
Gun violence is a public safety health issue. Racism is a public health issue. You've already heard Fauci say that. Now, if you think that
it's also infrastructure.
If you think that human distrust of humans, that they don't know or don't look like them or don't speak like them, is something that you can solve with scientism, then you're a bad person and a deeply, deeply stupid one. They've given up so much of our ability to trust them. They've used it against us. I'm sitting here watching a blues bar, the kind of blues bar in DC that would totally let you smoke cigarettes if the government would let them. They don't actually, they're not a nanny state. It's a dirty blues bar. They came out and said, what can we do to open up? What can we possibly do? What if we demand vaccines? So they care if you get a vaccine? No, they just want to survive. Now, I looked into why they couldn't open up. Since they're a live music venue, they have to be at 25% capacity. That's insane. That's half of what even restaurants are at. There's no dancing, obviously, no dancing, which I'm fine with. And then there's also, you have to have people 30 feet away from the stage. I mean, this bar is not like 30 feet wide. How could you possibly do that? You have to have a stadium in order to do that. And then the mayor said, well, we're reconsidering that rule. And I wanted to say, which is the idiot who made up that arbitrary rule the one who's now charged with reconsidering whether, like, it's going to take a lot of self-reflection for that person to say, wow, I'm a deeply stupid, power-hungry individual. I should stop and rescind this order. Like, the people who invented these rules are the ones now deciding that they're done with them. And Susan Collins is right, but she's way too late. Speaking of long overdue, way too late.
Well, I was going to say, I think the fact that this is coming out of Susan Collins' mouth speaks to how ridiculous some of these guidelines have been, particularly the mask one, which is what was in question at this point. And it does. I mean, it really does. Like, this is what most of the media and Democrats said was, rube idiocy from Republicans. This was like science skepticism, but here Susan Collins now feels bold enough and comfortable enough to come out and be like, no, this is actually ridiculous. It's overdue. And so maybe that signals that there will be some momentum going forward, which I don't think is
when
true.
The same public health experts who say your wellness and your health are important to them in this city don't care that you're getting harassed by homeless camps that are crapping in the streets, defecating in the streets and using needles in the streets when you walk under bridges to get to the office. They don't think that's the danger to your public health. Then maybe they don't care about your public health.
Yeah.
If they say wear a mask, don't go to school and shut down your business because science, also we're going to give gender changing drugs to your children for science. Don't listen to them.
Capital S science.
You know what? I mean, maybe some people will get sick someday in an actual pandemic, That's one good way to shock a country out of this kind of decadence. Real pandemic.
Well, I thought maybe that would happen like a year ago.
Right.
And
instead we just stayed home and ordered Uber Eats.
So I guess, yeah, well, that's exactly decadence. But I guess the last point I want to make is just zeroing in on Susan Collins saying that this increases people's hesitancy when you have the joint address to Congress full of a room of vaccinated people that are social distancing and wearing masks. The president of the United States continuing to wear masks. If you want people to get vaccinated, maybe show that it actually works instead of continuing to show the public that you should still live in fear after you go through 2 rounds of shots.
As glorious leader Ben Domenech said, this is deeply unserious. It's just theater.
Oh, I wish we had
theater.
Some of the stickers here, but this is the classic Domenech line. Consider the possibility that we are led by idiots. Think about that. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Emily Jashinsky. He's Chris Bedford. We'll be back soon with more and hope you stay tuned.